Part 25. A Middle School Cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 241. In order for the three comics to end at the same time period, we used hyperfusion to construct the ending. Well, that's basically the situation. Makoto Takahashi looked at Yoshida's tangled look, and his face showed happiness. Honkai smile, my beloved cat, what do you think of this ending? Is it very healing and loving? Cure. Love. Stop joking, Chen, you bastard, if you no longer explode in silence, you will surely perish in silence. Yoshida chose the latter, grabbed Takahashi Makoto by the collar, and almost roared, hey, Chen, do you know the consequences of doing this? You will definitely be cursed by readers for the rest of your life. Humph. So what? The world I look forward to, the future I long for, is to build an utopia of love and healing when human beings are full of despair. For this reason, I want to be a partner of justice. What is a mere curse? And Makoto Takahashi narrowed his eyes and looked at Yoshida with a serious face, and if you want to be a partner of justice, you will definitely be cursed by the evil in this world. This is fate, and there is no way to escape. Betrayal, even if the evil in this world is closest to the attributes of my Phoenix Academy, even if I, the Phoenix Academy, will personally destroy everything I cherish in the future, but in order to implement the true will of love and healing, I, the Phoenix Academy's miracle, willing to bear the curse of sin. By the way, we are discussing the content of comics now, not any great ideals or dreams, right? Yoshida was stunned by Takahashi Makoto's speech, and the hand holding Takahashi Makoto's collar gradually loosened his grip. After a moment of silence, Yoshida's burst of laughter resounded throughout the room. Ha ha ha, righteous partner, I'm laughing so hard. Hey. My beloved cat, do you want to die once? Believe me, if the heroic spirit Emiya knew that you were mocking his dream like this, he would definitely beat you into mincemeat with the unlimited sword system. Makoto Takahashi looked at it. Yoshida was laughing so hard that his face naturally became very ugly. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Seeing Cei Takahashi speak such eloquent words, Yoshida almost burst out laughing. Even the anger that could not be calmed down by the information revealed by Makoto Takahashi was burned out by this. Originally, Yoshida wanted to tease Takahashi Makoto, but seeing Takahashi Makoto's gloomy face and threatening words, Yoshida chose to change the subject. Hey, let's talk about that later, regarding the issue of partners of justice. Haha, Chen, although as a cartoonist, a rich imagination is a must, but... Yoshida put his hands on Takahashi Makoto's shoulders and said he consoled her with sincere words, you are already at this age, and you should give up the Chuyunibu that builds a delusional world now, although I don't know if there is a chance to save your Chuyunibu, but you can't do it because of it. Give up treatment. My beloved cat, it seems that you are very satisfied with your progress recently. Why, do you think your cultivation has reached the level where you can defeat the Earth Lord with one punch? He gently broke away from Yoshida's shoulder. With both hands, a trace of murderous intent flashed across Takahashi Makoto's face, and he quickly turned around and pulled out the magic sword Broken Star placed in the corner of the room. He squinted his eyes and said quietly to Yoshida, it seems that before discussing the comics, I need to let you read it again, understand the nature of your fight with Wuja. Hey, Chen, damn. Do you want to kill me? Facing the angry Takahashi Makoto, Yoshida turned pale and narrowly avoided Takahashi's blow, and then hurriedly entering Super Killbart mode, using the exclusive classic enemy repelling combat technique, 4-body, well, considering Yoshida's gender, 5-body throw to the ground should be more appropriate here. I'm sorry Chen, I was really wrong this time. I will never dare to do it again. Please let me go. Combat skill, 3 consecutive hits to repel the enemy is activated. It's actually Gilbert's own technique for repelling enemies. he is indeed a clever cat of mine. But Makoto Takahashi jumped back, widened the distance from Yashida, and shook hands with his left and right hands. Holding the hilt of the sword, he held the magic sword in front of him with a disdainful smile on his face. Do you think such an immature move will be useful to me? My beloved cat, it's useless to say more. Swastika, huh? Takahashi Makoto's offensive has stopped, because there is a knife and fork commonly used on the dining table stuck on the floor at his feet. Just when Takahashi Makoto is about to launch his swastika, someone uses this knife and fork to remove Takahashi Makoto's attack. Yashida's murderous intent is blocked. Master, this will disturb Miss Rina's rest. Sabas-chan did not appear, but his voice came faintly. When Yashida was about to say something to express his gratitude to Sabas-chan, who stopped Takahashi Makoto in time, Sabas-chan's voice sounded again, and the blood will stain the floor, which will be very troublesome to clean. Indeed. Although dismemberment is very loving, cleaning up the aftermath is quite boring work. Slowly putting away the magic sword, Takahashi Makoto squinted his right eye and looked at Yashida. My beloved cat, be good, cherish this hard-won opportunity and continue to live in embarrassment. Drink, ha 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 ha. Damn it, if I can beat him. Hey, my beloved cat, you got the answer you wanted. Is that enough? Who is the best at changing the subject? Of course it's Makoto Takahashi who is holding the magic sword. Ahem, don't get me wrong, the magic sword is definitely not a threatening prop, it's just a decoration, a simple decoration. But, you haven't made the key issue clear at all. Yashida's mood that had just calmed down was on the verge of breaking out again. However, this time Yashida was much more sensible. At least he didn't do anything like pulling Takahashi Makoto's collar to get lunch. He just complained feebly, although I know that in the end you will put the three comics together, but, what do you mean, when the final battle comes, even if reinforcements from another world appear, it will still be a brutal war, which will also lead to the end of the monster era. Don't make such a prediction like a magician, please explain it clearly to me. You're talking about this, but you still don't understand? Alas, it's really. Makoto Takahashi looked at Yashida with a surprised look on his face, helplessly spread his hands, and kept shaking his head. I heard it before. The King of Black Flame said that most of the editor-level combatants in the organization have lower than average IQs. I didn't expect this news to be true. HN, who can understand the way you talk, Yashida, who was ridiculed repeatedly today, has completely gone berserk. He looked up at the ceiling and began to prepare to explode. Grandfather of the Kingdom of Heaven, in this situation, is this the moment you once said that men should fight desperately even if they know they are defeated? Not bad enlightenment. Makoto Takahashi drew out the magic sword, with an expectant smile on his face. So my beloved cat, in order to reward you for this enlightenment, I will untie all the restraints on the Phoenix Academy's murderer. Fight with you with all my strength. As long as you can defeat me, you can know everything you want to know. Let the battle begin. System prompt, player Yashida. The system automatically corrected the name to my dependent cat, has opened a hell-level hidden copy, and single-handedly transformed the Phoenix Academy's fierce and powerful Demon King. Mission description: demonize the ferocious Demon King of the Phoenix Academy, an existence comparable to the evil in this world. As a challenger who enters the single-player dungeon, in addition to admiring your courage, I would like to ask, have you seen that there is no love in this world? Mission reward, huh? Mission reward? You must be cheating, right? Otherwise, how could such a task be accomplished? Before rewards are given, players will be scanned for cheats. Cheaters must die. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Mal. Chapter 242. Although Yashida entered the explosive mode because of anger, because Yashida is essentially a dependent cat, not a monkey star with unlimited growth, and he does not have the ability to activate multiple transformations due to anger, So he can only master the demonic Phoenix Academy fears the mission of His Majesty the Great Demon King, even though Yoshida really tried his best, still failed without any suspense. According to the previous rules, those who fail the challenge will become the devil's lackey slave. What's this twisted rule? I've never heard of it before. Chen, you bastard, don't make any strange rules for me without permission. Before Takahashi Makoto finished speaking, he called. Lying on the ground, Yoshida rolled his eyes and slowly got up. Due to the extensive scratches on his body, the corners of Yoshida's mouth twitched. Hey, Chen, what on earth do you want to do before you are willing to say anything? Although you completed the witch's cooking test today and tried to challenge His Majesty the fierce Demon King of the Phoenix Academy, it's a pity. Makoto Takahashi spread his hands and shook his head. According to the principle of equal exchange, today the price you paid for my beloved cat can only be exchanged for this information. Have you forgotten it? Greed is the original sin that will lead to your destruction. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Sure enough, you deliberately used this kind of deception before, just to take the opportunity to repair me, right? Yoshida tidied up his clothes and sat on the sofa with a pale face. The fight just now was so shocking. Yoshida expended a lot of energy, even though he was just trying his best to escape. Hey! Have you been seen through? Makoto Takahashi turned his head to the side and muttered in a low voice. However, he noticed that Yoshida's face was ashen and immediately changed his tone. Ahem, do you want to know the true purpose of the Phoenix Academy? My beloved cat, go and find it. At the end of the world, where the clouds and the sea are connected, there is a place that only the purest people in the world can reach. Its name is Tianhe. Why bother? And your setting, is it plagiarized from One Piece? That's the Great Sea Route, not the legend of Tianhe. Here comes Yoshida's long-awaited three-part complaint. Yoshida looked at Makoto Takahashi with an unhappy look on his face. Really, don't underestimate me as an editor. Also, don't think you can get away with this, you were before. Hey, really, because I didn't remain an. As Takahashi Makoto spoke, he spread his hands helplessly, with an expression on his face that said, my son has grown up to be so virtuous. Dad, I am very sad. This made Yoshida's anger level increase by 30%, and his CP was directly filled up. If not, the previous battle had consumed a lot of energy in escaping, and Yoshida promised to throw a Super S move directly at him to kill the Chuyunibu in front of him. Hey, Chen, I suddenly wonder if I should hire a killer to kill you tomorrow. Regarding Makoto Takahashi's chattering skills, Yoshida said with black lines on his face and gritted teeth. Although Yoshida just expressed his hatred, he achieved unexpected results. Because Makoto Takahashi, who was still chattering before, suddenly stopped and looked at Yoshida in surprise. Just when Yoshida thought his threat had frightened Makoto Takahashi sighed and started a new round of mental attacks. My beloved cat, you are in your early 30s, right? In the past 30 years, there are always some things you don't want to do again, or some people you don't want to see again. Some people have been sorry to you, maybe you thought about killing him, but you didn't dare, or maybe you didn't think it was worth it. In fact, killing someone is really easy. I have a friend whose assassination skills have reached the level of a heroic spirit. Even Gaia-chan has planned to sign him as the next assassin, but his life has been a bit difficult recently. As long as you give him some money, probably a few billion, he will definitely help you kill him. If you kill that person, you can think about it. In fact, it is not easy to kill someone, but for the sake of life, many people will take this risk. Looking at Yoshida's shocked look, Takahashi-chen nodded with satisfaction, quietly pointing to the room upstairs. That's right, you know that person, but... are you a ghost? Why? Yoshida was about to cry. Didn't he want to discuss the content of the comic? Why is the topic of discussion now focusing on finding the killer? According to Yoshida, although Little Sea Otter and Makoto Takahashi are both talented cartoonists, they are both troublesome existences. The Little Sea Otter has a lazy personality and suffers from escape addiction, while Makoto Takahashi is a severe Chuyunibu. However, from an editorial point of view, the professional ethics of cartoonist Makoto Takahashi is obviously much better than that of Little Sea Otter. However, at this moment, Yoshida realized deeply that he would rather nurse and educate 100 Little Sea Otters than face a middle school student Makoto Takahashi. After all, when you torture the Little Sea Otter, you can not only improve the editor's self-cultivation, but also produce an incomparable sense of pleasure. But when facing Makoto Takahashi, the feeling of powerlessness from the soul even made Yoshida thoughts of committing suicide. As an editor, I can't communicate normally with cartoonists. Is it really okay for me to live in this world? Yoshida's face looked dazed, as if he had fallen into a dark abyss, and even if he struggled hard, he could not escape. Hey! Is my familiar cat like this already broken by playing with it? It is really a useless toy. Seeing Yoshida's dull look, Takahashi Makoto curled his lips in displeasure and stretched out his hand to pat him gently. Looking at Yoshida's face, my beloved cat, wake up. Before I have enough fun, you can't get lost in hell so easily, hey. Are the usual methods useless? Master, of course you can't do this, Sebastian suddenly appeared. Fortunately, Yoshida has entered the sluggish mode. Otherwise, seeing the smiling expression on Sebastian's face, he would decisively choose to commit suicide immediately, right? Huh? So Sebastian-chan, what do you think next? In fact, playing with humans is the same as educating cats and dogs. After being whipped with a whip, appropriate rewards must be given. Although the soulless Walking Dead are indeed interesting as puppet toys, toys with a sense of self-resistance can make you produce more pleasure. After Sebastian gave the hint with a smile, he looked at Makoto Takahashi's confused look and bowed slightly to leave. It seems that you have understood, master, then I'll do it. It won't affect your enjoyment, young master. Damn it. This pair of shady masters and servants, no, this level is no longer shady, but real ghosts. I see, with such sharp means, is it true that Lord Night King, who can become the admiration of thousands of women, is worthy of being Sabas-chan? Makoto Takahashi was filled with joy at Sabas-chan's reminder. He accepted it, looked at Sabas-chan's leaving back and angrily clicked 32 likes, then immediately turned his head and slapped Yoshida's face hard, hoping to temporarily awaken Yoshida's consciousness through the stimulation of physical pain. My familiar cat, as long as you come to your senses within 3 seconds, I will tell you all the plans, the ultimate victory contract treasure of the monster era. The Age of Monsters, Comics. Yoshida's eyes gradually regained their luster, and he kept mumbling and repeating the previous words, looking at Makoto Takahashi with a confused face. Seeing the look on Yoshida's face that was eager for redemption, Makoto Takahashi scratched his head in confusion. It seems that the means provided by Sabas-chan are too powerful, right? Ahem, by the way, who is the one who put Yoshida into Honkai mode? My beloved cat, because this ending is very important, so I don't want the cartoonist or editor to know. Otherwise I will drag your soul out and kill you thousands of times. After the threatening words, seeing Yoshida sitting seriously, Takahashi Makoto nodded with satisfaction and continued with a serious face, but before I talk about this matter, I want to ask you a question first. Among these comics, the strongest monster, yes? Abe Sime? No, although that guy is a monster in the end, he is still an onmyoji. Is he Naraku? That's not right. Naraku was almost killed by Kikyo before, and was almost killed by Inuyasha and his group several times. The so-called the strongest monster, Yoshida did not guess the protagonist's group. After all, the protagonist's combat power is enhanced by the halo. Could it be? Well, the strongest monster is the white-faced man in Tide and the Tiger, Seeing Yoshida pondering with a surprised expression on his face, Takahashi Makoto had a weird smile on his face. "Oh, look. You've already guessed the cat that comes to me." Combining the hints you gave before, and specifically emphasizing that the strongest monster is the white-faced one, after giving this information, and then referring to your past Shuyuni style, "If I still can't guess, then I am not qualified." Edited. Yoshida sighed helplessly and looked at Makoto Takahashi with a melancholy look on his face. "I roughly understand the situation, but there is still one question, which is which characters will survive at the end. Come down. The group is destroyed." Seeing Yoshida's face pale, Takahashi Makoto added with satisfaction, "This is impossible." "Wise choice. If the team is really wiped out, I can guarantee that Chang, you will definitely be dead on the streets the next day." After Yoshida received Takahashi Makoto's confirmation, he did not even consider Takahashi Makoto. Regarding the issue of moral integrity, he said to himself, "It seems that when the ending of Tide and Tiger comes, the protagonists of several comics will join in, including the Nura group's Hayaki Yaka, Inuyasha, and his gang. Speaking of which, how powerful is the white-faced man in your comic? Do you need to gather so many characters to join the battle? You have miscalculated some characters. Don't look at me like this. The prompts have reached this level, which is already very good. You need to think about the rest." The great man Takahashi Makoto once said that once humans stop thinking, it has entered destruction. As for the large number of participants in the war, Makoto Takahashi picked up a sketch from the table, which was a close-up of the white-faced man in The Tide and the Tiger. "Because the white-faced one is the strongest monster in my comics. I didn't expect there would be a third update, ha 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 ha. By the way, the fourth update will not be available in time, so please don't look forward to it and rest early after reading this update. Above. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 243. Chapter 243. The end of an era represents the birth of a new god. Although Yoshida finally obtained seemingly valuable information from Makoto Takahashi after going through all kinds of torture, Yoshida was not happy. Not to mention the bitter process of obtaining the information, even the information obtained was not as valuable as imagined. Knowing that the final ending was completed in Ushio and Tora, and knowing that the protagonists would fight together in the end, and the frenzied Makoto Takahashi repeatedly stated that he would kill many characters in the final battle, this made Yoshida very worried. But Yoshida had no way to tell others, and didn't know how to say it. Knowing that the tragedy was about to begin, he was powerless to stop it and could only watch. This sense of powerlessness, this weak sin, made Yoshida entangled for nearly 2 months. Although that's what he said, Yoshida was still surprised by the monster era constructed by Makoto Takahashi through comics. Although 4 monster comics with different styles were serialized, the monster era constructed through these comics did allow Yoshida and even many readers to witness the process of the monster era from prosperity to decline. Including the completed manga Nuro ni, the development sequence of the 4 monster comics has allowed many readers to witness the rise and fall of the monster era. In the manga Inuyasha, monsters and humans divide the world. No, to be precise, the weak humans at that time were just the objects of monsters' wanton prey. Because the development level of human society was not very high at that time, and humans were still in the cold weapon period, the lethality to monsters was not very high, so in the comics, the real enemy of monsters was only the monsters themselves. For the monsters standing at the top of the food chain, humans are just food that can be replenished at any time. In the completed manga Nuro ni, the first generation of Nura group, Nura, has realized that monsters will gradually decline. Therefore, after defeating the monster Yuyuko entrenched in Kyoto, he did not replace the dominant position of Kyoto monsters, but returned to his hometown in Edo with his monsters and hid in the dark. Perhaps monsters can continue to kill people unscrupulously, but such a path will eventually lead to the demise of monsters. It is precisely because of foreseeing such a situation that Nura has chosen to live in seclusion in human society with his monsters, because after the battle with Yuyuko, Nura has seen the potential for human development and realized that the era of monsters has passed, and humans will become the real rulers. This is the way of the monster era to induce readers' thoughts through comics. The most obvious is naturally the progress of humans fighting monsters in the comic Ushio and Tora. Whether it is Inuyasha or Nura, in these two monster comics, humans do not have too many outstanding places. When dealing with monsters, most of them rely on cold weapons and spells. By the way, the humans here refer to the passing soy sauce extras, and they are humans who have not joined the protagonist's side or even established a relationship with the protagonist's side. However, in the comic Ushio and Tora, when humans deal with monsters, they have begun to use modern weapons. Although monsters are still very powerful, this power comes from the talents of their own race. Therefore, when many readers see humans using hot weapons to fight monsters in Ushio and Tora, they will have such feelings in their hearts. The monster era has come to an end. Is this what you want to express, Chen? Yoshida showed a melancholy expression on his face after reading the new comic manuscript. Because humans are constantly progressing and developing, so, the monster era is gradually declining. Although he has felt what Takahashi Makoto wants to convey from the comics, Yoshida always feels a little uncomfortable. After all, the monster comics have been serialized for a long time. From the big monsters that humans cannot compete with at the beginning, to the monsters whose names are now bound by a book of friends, they have witnessed the monsters from being powerful and arrogant to now only being able to follow humans to ask for names. The entire process of the monster era from prosperity to decline makes Yoshida feel very complicated. It's not because Takahashi Makoto said that the age of monsters is about to end, but... Hey, my cat, witnessing an ordinary human become a savior hero, and then watching this hero gradually grow old with the passage of time, because you understand that this is an irresistible ability, do you feel sympathy in your heart? Looking at Yoshida's tangled and depressed expression, Takahashi Makoto gently tapped the table and sneered disdainfully, "Humph. Humans are so weak that I hate them because of such pathetic sympathy." Although what he said is not wrong, but the root of evil is indeed Takahashi Makoto yourself, right? Aiken, the monster era you created really makes me feel like a hero in his twilight years. Yoshida, who has developed resistance to Takahashi Makoto's mockery of humans, did not start the spit mode, but unexpectedly agreed with Takahashi Makoto's point of view. Because in the three comics that are still serialized, the difference in combat power between monsters is too great. Inuyasha is the earliest monster manga. No matter it is the purebred big monster, the Lolita-controlled Shimaru, or the big villain, the half-demon Naraku, or even the occasional passerby monsters, they are much stronger than the monsters in the new manga Natsume. Let me put it this way, after the battle with the Dragon Bone Spirit, Dog Dad was seriously injured and could successfully break into the village where the army was stationed for Princess Izayoi, but if it were in this era, hundreds of atomic bombs and hydrogen bombs would be thrown at him, and Dog Dad would definitely be wiped out. Takahashi Makoto looked at Yoshida in thought, and a devilish smile appeared on his face. When humans were still slashing and burning, monsters could use monster power. When humans began to use swords, monsters still used monster power. When humans began to use missiles, monsters still used monster power. Facing the ever-improving humans, monsters have not made any progress at all, so the decline and destruction of the monster era is not the so-called hero's twilight, but an inevitable fate. Hey, my cat, the end of an era means the beginning of a new era. The replacement of the old with the new is the will of the world's development and the truth that cannot be disobeyed in the universe. Without giving Yoshida a chance to speak, Takahashi Makoto started talking to himself. You are just witnesses, you are just observers, so your duty is to witness everything, observe everything, that's all, and I, Feng Guangai Yuan Kuma. By the way, Chen, you mentioned on the phone before that you wanted to talk to me about the order of comic serialization. Facing Takahashi Makoto's upcoming attack, Yoshida chose to switch the topic without hesitation to defend. So, is there any problem with the serialization order? Actually, there is no big problem. I just want to perform a large-scale evil wave to announce to all humans and the entire world that the feast of the end of the monster era is about to begin. Takahashi Makoto showed a fanatical expectation on his face, and continued to complete the content that was interrupted by Yoshida before. At the same time, I also say to Gaia-chan, who represents the will of the world, that I, Feng Guangai Yuan Kuma, will become the god who creates a new world. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do SD Mao. Chapter 244. The reason why Takahashi Makoto asked Yoshida about the order in which comics should be published was naturally because he wanted to start in this aspect. After getting Yoshida's reply and confirming that the manga would be published in the order he expected, Takahashi Makoto handed over the previously completed manga manuscript to Yoshida. Yoshida, who had been vaguely aware of Takahashi Makoto's conspiracy, immediately flipped through it quickly. The comic manuscript is here. Seeing Yoshida's impatient look, Takahashi Makoto had a disdainful smile on his face. Although it was very interesting to observe Yoshida's next actions, in contrast, after finishing the work, he admired Yoshida without any distractions. The startling behavior is more interesting. So, in Takahashi Makoto's new home, Takahashi Makoto drew comics silently, and Yoshida quietly read the manga manuscript, extremely quiet. You're cheating, Yoshida suddenly threw the manga manuscript on the table and roared gloomily. Looking at Makoto Takahashi, who smiled with "I knew you would roar like this" on his face, Yoshida picked up the manga on the table. He kept tapping the comic manuscript with his fingers and asked through gritted teeth, "Chen, this, no, it's these plots, what's going on? Why is this happening? Oh he, my beloved cat, your reaction is more violent than I imagined. It seems that the new trick dark trio I created unconsciously during my previous practice is quite effective. Even you, as a sea otter trainer, are so shocked." Makoto Takahashi didn't care about Yoshida's face at all, and spoke to himself with a look of anticipation. In the future, after the full version of the moves is released, must be very loving, right? Ah, this kind of trembling from the soul is really joyful. Hey, Chen, I can guarantee you that after the new chapters of the 3 comics are published, there will definitely be many readers who can't wait to talk to you about your outlook on life and values, for Takahashi Makoto's bad taste will not be evaluated at all, because the broken smile on Takahashi Makoto's face now makes Yoshida feel like he is unable to communicate. However, in line with the responsibility of the editor, Yoshida still forced himself, and he was already a little different from the person in front of him. A normal Chuyunibu, giving the final persuasion, although in terms of job responsibilities, as an editor, you should not dictate the plot completed by the cartoonist, but, speaking of Aiken, you can't use a normal human mentality, think about it. The content of this comic draft is more brutal than the last. The ranking that was difficult to stabilize before will definitely drop again after the new content is published. Yada. If I did it on purpose, then I might follow your suggestion and try to modify it. Makoto Takahashi shook his head like a child and rejected Yoshida's proposal unceremoniously. Suggestion. But in this situation, the Dark Trio came into existence on its own, and its existence is reasonable. This is the law of heaven that cannot be violated. Although he is about to become the god of the new world, if he confronts the law of heaven head-on, he will die without a burial place. Yes. All of this is the choice of Steins Gate. Chen, if you do this, you will definitely be punished by God, Unable to persuade Takahashi Makoto's stubborn approach, Yoshida was furious and cast a curse of fate on Takahashi Makoto. Bang! It just broke up two pairs of lovers, allowing a man who wanted to be a hero to experience the despair of being betrayed by his ideals. My beloved is a cat, the world is unkind and all creatures are like rotten dogs. This is just to implement the will of heaven. That's it. Besides, the accidental appearance of the Dark Trio is just the beginning, and the final ending of the protagonist's destruction is the real killing move. Makoto Takahashi shook his head with disdain and started to sort out the things on the seat. Manga manuscript, while explaining slowly and leisurely, but having said that, if even this level cannot be accepted, when the future dual plan is launched in the future, more than half of the human race will be wiped out, and then when Senior Sister Madoka Saber and others come out, humanity may also be on the verge of extinction, right? As for the final blow to annihilate humanity, the final blow to the Lord of Earth will of course be carried out by me, the Phoenix Academy Jiajihan. Well, Cheng, did you think of something? Seeing Takahashi Cheng suddenly fell into deep thought, Yoshida stared at someone expectantly. Although I know that the possibility of Makoto Takahashi changing his mind is close to -infinity, having hope in times of despair is also the disgusting and inferior nature of human beings. My beloved cat, what I just told you was what I had planned from the beginning. I originally followed this route. But, after hesitating for a moment, Takahashi Makoto raised his head and looked at Yoshida. But now I suddenly feel that if I do this, it doesn't seem to be a very enjoyable game. Well, just summon some unplanned existences, just one or two soul beatings, for despicable creatures like humans who are forgetful, saying that is not enough. The Dark Trio, according to Makoto Takahashi, is really the choice of Steins Gate. This chapter to be published in the new comic Natsume only tells the story of the relationship between a human named Akashi and the Firefly monster. Although Natsume, as the protagonist, still brings the cute cat teacher around to make soy sauce, but this chapter, the real protagonists are the she-male lovers. I always feel that something is wrong. She-male lovers refer to lovers composed of humans and monsters. It is not a simple literal term, just like the Condor heroes and couples. It is not a strange cross-race lovers combination like gods and eagles. In the comic Tide and Tiger, the white-faced man is the strongest monster and the final villain. He is not like many common villains. He talks too much and is stupid. He is a sharp combination of one person, one beast, and one spear. The white-faced man sent out a large number of his slave demons to launch a full-screen brainwashing attack on humans and monsters around the world, directly erasing the existence of Xiao Chao and Ahu from the memories of humans and monsters around the world, leaving Xiao Chao and Ahu is trapped in a desperate situation, surrounded by enemies from all sides. In the new chapter of the comic Inuyasha, Kikyo, who had an emotional entanglement with Inuyasha in the past, after resurrecting from the dead, experienced several dangers, but still failed to achieve a positive result with Inuyasha. Due to the plan of the ghost and half-demon Naraku, next, Platycodon was fatally injured. On her deathbed, Kikyo refused Kagam's treatment and died in the arms of Inuyasha, who arrived at the last moment. This is called the Dark Trio. Although Takahashi Makoto has repeatedly emphasized that the simultaneous appearance of three heartbreaking plots for readers is the choice of Steins Gate, Yoshida does not believe this at all. Because Yoshida has always believed that his depression level is directly proportional to Takahashi Makoto's happiness level. The higher his depression level, the greater the happiness level of Takahashi Makoto. Although Yoshida tried his best to persuade Takahashi Makoto to restrain himself a little, how could Takahashi Makoto, who had reached a feverish state of pleasure, be persuaded by a mere family cat? So, Makoto Takahashi, who is in a ghostly state, is unstoppable. Oh, by the way, my familiar cat, the task of eliminating the defecting familiars will be left to you this time. Makoto Takahashi glanced at the messy table aside, with a solemn look on his face. those guys, signed a master-slave contract with the Demon King, and swore to become the demon god's slave, but now he didn't abide by the agreement and defected directly. Sure enough, he should have used the Dark Ball to capture him from the beginning, in order to maintain his wild nature. The free-range policy is not scientific at all. Although the division of labor on the assistant side is clear, after completing the comic manuscripts, the three groups of assistants will exchange the comic manuscripts in each other's hands. While looking at the content of the new episode, they will check for gaps and fill in the gaps, and learn the skills of handling the comic manuscripts. However, after the new manga manuscript was completed, Ueno Aoi and Mayuri read all the manga manuscripts as usual, and then they hugged each other and cried all afternoon, but several grown men were quite depressed, and said to Takahashi Makoto from time to time. Activating the glaring glare skill seems to be trying to provoke Takahashi Makoto and seek salvation from death. By the way, because Shizukawa asked for leave from Takahashi Makoto and went home because of family matters, he is not on the must-kill list this time. Although you keep saying that this is Steins Gate's choice. Yoshida took the manga manuscript and was about to leave when he suddenly remembered something and turned around to stare at Makoto Takahashi, his tone filled with emotion. After realizing it, he felt helpless, but when you first asked me about the order of publication of the comics, these drawings had already been completed, right? Huh. The choice of Steins Gate, everything is just Chen, you. My beloved cat, although I can understand that you failed in the persuasion mission and entered the angry mode, but... Makoto Takahashi drew out the magic sword Broken Star, squinted at Yoshida, and the smile on his face gradually became dangerous. Do you still want to use your body and soul to feel again, that fatal blow that penetrates the world? Yes, swastika. Ah, Chen, although drawing comics is very important, you must also spend more time with Rina-chan. I'm leaving now, Yoshida, whose handsomeness had increased by a small amount before, now still dropped from handsome to negative. After throwing away his moral integrity, he decisively chose to retreat. Handsomeness and sincerity are valuable, and integrity is even higher. If it's for life, both can be thrown away. Therefore, after this trial, Yoshida has begun to learn the secret of escape, cutting off the possibility of going astray in Aotean style. Yesterday, a certain cat returned to the barrier around 1 o'clock because of the overtime incident, so a certain girl controlled the Demon King's prophecy was successful. Okay, I will not pursue the matter of your installation of the stagnant circuit. Thank you for your monthly ticket recommendations. A certain cat said guiltily, thank you for your love, and asked a certain cat to insist on writing, because there are too many surprises in life, so it is normal for life to be difficult. A certain cat just wants to just write something happy and make you laugh. The second update is here, and please take a rest early. As for the above, meow. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 245. After the new issue of Shonen Jump was released, the existence of readers has already felt the malice from Fengguangai Yuan Kuma. Previously, Takahashi Makoto specifically asked Yoshida about the order of publishing comics in order to maximize the healing effect of Dark Trio. Through the most ideal serialization, readers can get more despair when they are eager for healing. This is the true meaning of Takahashi Makoto's healing. The comic that Takahashi Makoto put at the top is naturally Natsum. As a new comic, Natsum has not been serialized for a long time, but the comic itself is quite powerful. Although the style of comics like Natsum is not actually in line with the theme of Shonen Jump itself, thanks to the previous love short story, the serialization time is not too long, and many people have noticed that the style of this new comic is exactly the short-lived Firefly Forest in the previous love short story. Since Misaki read Firefly, she has become interested in the comics of Hao Winkuma. However, she doesn't like the other two comics except Inuyasha, which was serialized at the beginning. Now she just skips through Inuyasha. The reason why I say that she skips through the comics of Inuyasha is that every time she sees a fierce fighting scene, she will quickly skip it. Only when it comes to emotional scenes, Misaki will read it seriously. When Natsume started serialization, Misaki, who had been following Winkuma, was a little disappointed because the subject matter involved monsters, which Misaki was not interested in. It was just that she accidentally saw the close-up of the male protagonist Natsume, which reminded Misaki of the original Firefly, so she just read it with curiosity. Unexpectedly, after just reading the content of one episode, Misaki could no longer take her eyes away. There are no fierce battles, no lofty aspirations, just very ordinary and delicate stories in life. Although the subject matter involves many stories about monsters, the real content is not about how ferocious and hideous monsters are, nor about what special abilities monsters have, but just about the stories between monsters. As the human protagonist in the comics, Natsume can see monsters that ordinary humans cannot see. However, it is because of this ability that Natsume had an unhappy childhood experience and was alienated by children and even adults. Although there is now a cat teacher who tries to be cute around him, it does not mean that Natsume has begun to accept monsters. And it is such a Natsume who got the grandmother's relic, the friend book that can drive monsters. Although Natsume does not like monsters very much, the kind-hearted Natsume has no intention of driving monsters. He just wants to return the names of the monsters recorded on the friend book. In the process of returning the names, Natsume encounters monsters one by one and experiences stories one by one, but it is undeniable that it is these seemingly plain and real stories that make Misaki completely obsessed. After getting the new issue of the comic, Misaki locked the door as soon as she got home and started reading the comic on the bed. This is Natsume's Book of Friends. The problem is, after turning the first few pages of the comic, Misaki began to frown and kept muttering, but Natsume-kun didn't appear, and Nico-sensei didn't appear either. Fireflies. No way. The life of fireflies is short, even firefly monsters. This episode of Natsume tells the story of firefly monsters and an uncle named Akaifumi. Just seeing the firefly monster mentioned at the beginning reminded Misaki of the previous Firefly Forest. Although she hasn't read the content afterwards, Misaki already has a vague feeling that something is wrong. When Natsume was walking with Nico-sensei, he met an uncle who was about to change his job to a wife control, that is, Akaifumi, who was sitting quietly by the lake before. Uncle Jongshi was sitting by the lake with a tangled face, and there was a long-haired woman wearing a strange mask hiding beside him. Because Natsume could see monsters, this woman followed him all the way to the house where Natsume was staying, and told him about her and the tangled uncle. Misaki looked at the story in the comics and felt a sense of uneasiness in her heart. Although she had not been in contact with the cartoonist Haoru Kyoma for a long time, Misaki had seen a lot of relevant information about someone's evil deeds on the internet. For example, someone let Shin-chan die in a car accident, someone let Euphemia die without any hesitation, and another example. Ahem, it seems that Misaki doesn't know yet that the killer weapon of Kikyo's death is hidden in this issue of Shonen Jump. Because the Firefly monster is a low-level monster, it has no entity itself. However, the Firefly monster has only one chance in its life to become a Firefly, but the price is that after becoming a Firefly, the monster will not be able to change back, and will lose the long life of the monster. It can only end its remaining life as a Firefly. Seeing this, Misaki has guessed what will happen next. Like Xiaomyu, Jiangxi was once able to see monsters, so he also had an unfortunate experience. Jiangxi, who originally lamented his unfortunate fate, met the Firefly monster by the lake. Although he was rejected by humans, he was accepted by the monster, and his lonely heart was relieved. However, the happy time was short-lived. As he grew older, Jiangxi suddenly could no longer see the monster he looked forward to seeing every day. Jiangxi was depressed for a long time. An experience so similar to Xiaomu's, but with different results. While gaining hope, he gained despair again. Jiangxi's emotion touched Xiaomu a lot after learning about Jiangxi's upcoming marriage. Xiaomu, needless to say, even Misaki, as a reader, feels a little depressed. This ending is really. When she saw the firefly monster choose to turn into a firefly, fly lightly in Akashi, and then disappear into the sky, Misaki's eyes were already blurry. It's obviously Firefly Monster's own choice, it's obviously Jiangxi's own choice, it's obviously a choice that everyone has no regrets, but this ending, this result, is really too sad. You can't blame Jiangxi, nor can you blame the Firefly Monster, because, what's wrong is this world, what's wrong is the ruthless fate. This chapter of Natsume ends here. Misaki, who originally planned to read Inuyasha, did not continue to read the manga, but gently put it aside. It's not that Misaki doesn't want to watch it, but that she feels a little bored in her heart. The spiritual impact of the story of Natsume is really effective for sad girls. Misaki didn't read the manga Ushio and Tora that was serialized after Shonen Jump because combat-type comics were not Misaki's cup of tea, so Misaki skipped this manga and started reading Inuyasha. So Kikyo is dead? How is this possible? Just seeing the title made Misaki unable to calm down. As Misaki, a member of the Kikyo party, she is quite looking forward to the manga artist named Phoenix Academy being able to give a satisfactory ending in the future, such as Kikyo and Inuyasha living together, such as Kagome returning to the modern age, such as. Although she is a little unhappy with Inuyasha's wavering relationship, Misaki has always been full of expectations for the relationship between Inuyasha and Kikyo. Because of Platykadon's persistence, because of Platykadon's dedication, because of Platykadon. But now Platykadon is actually dead. The Phoenix Academy is really fierce, this big bad guy who will be punished by heaven. Looking at the manga, Kikyo died in Inuyasha's arms. When they parted, Inuyasha hugged Kikyo tightly with tears streaming down his face. Misaki's red and swollen eyes became sore again, and she couldn't help but shed tears again. Come out. Because she was not very interested in Ushio and Tora, Misaki was lucky enough to escape the mental attack of the Dark Trio. Congratulations. Congratulations. Ahem, but many fans of the Phoenix Institute, out of love for the Phoenix Institute, did not skip a certain comic like Misaki did, but chose to watch them all, so, it's tragic the Dark Trio was hardened and fell into a state of serious injury. If the killing moves of Inuyasha and Natsume are aimed at female readers, then the killing moves of Ushio and Tora are targeted at all male readers. Since the manga Ushio and Tora was serialized until now, many viewers who like it have accepted Zayashio as the male protagonist. He doesn't have a handsome face, and he doesn't have a certain Aotean strength. If he doesn't hold a beast spear and enter the beast state, even if he passes by, he might just regard Xiao Chao as an ordinary boy next door, right? However, this boy next door existence has helped many humans and monsters. He has saved humans from monsters several times and monsters from humans. Although he has some bad good guy attributes, Xiao Chao just wants to help. Just humans and monsters. But in this episode, because the white-faced man released a large number of slave demons and launched an anti-world attack brainwashing, humans and monsters all over the world forgot the existence of Xiao Chao and Ahu. The humans and monsters who have helped in the past, classmates, friends, and even people they like have all become strangers. They are obviously like saviors, but now they are betrayed by the world they saved. Such content has made many fans of Tide and Tiger are heartbroken. Although at the end of this chapter of Chao and Tiger, Ahu did not brainwash Xiao Chao so that Xiao Chao did not lose his best partner, which gave many readers a sense of comfort, but this level is still not enough. After all, the boy named Kanyu Esheo had wandered between humans and monsters before, and had been seriously injured many times, but now he had such a result, which still made many readers sigh. The one who is more anxious than the readers is naturally Takahashi Makoto's familiar cat Yoshida. After seeing the contents of these 3 chapters, Yoshida already felt that a tragedy was about to happen. However, forced by Makoto Takahashi's forceful oppression, Yoshida finally gave in unscrupulously, even though Yoshida had the thought of regret countless times and wanted to go again. When trying to persuade Takahashi Makoto, I just thought of the magic sword in Takahashi Makoto's hand and the weird smile on his face, and finally I could only lower my head and sigh helplessly. However, being able to make readers feel the viciousness of the Phoenix Academy really proves Makoto Takahashi's popularity as a cartoonist. However, in exchange for equal exchange, Makoto Takahashi will have to accept this resentment and hatred. And this time, Makoto Takahashi's Dark Trio seems to be more effective than others, a bit too much. First update, a certain cat is back. I just read the book review, and there are actually people who are not afraid of curses and call a certain cat eunuch. Oh, I sympathize with you. Well, by the way, thank you all for your support, my collection didn't drop much. I can't thank you enough, so if you can, please post more today. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 246. The consequence of excessive group ridicule is to create endless resentment and hatred among a large number of readers. The Dark Trio performed by Makoto Takahashi this time has made many readers resentful. Many people on the internet have said that they are tired of the Phoenix Academy's brutal comics. Of course, many readers just say this, because the manga is not finished, so many people just vent their dissatisfaction. If Takahashi Makoto really ends the manga, then these readers will definitely be Spartan. By the way, since the release of this issue of Shonen Jump, the calls from the editorial department have not stopped. Many readers called in and made the editorial office howl. Some read it too excitedly, and even sent dangerous items such as blades to the editorial office, hoping that the editorial office would forward them to the manga artist Hohoin Kuma. Although the editorial department would not do such a thing, the reader's resentful will was still well conveyed. As usual, when Yoshida came to collect manga manuscripts, he complained and complained at Makoto Takahashi. He wanted to take this opportunity to hit Makoto Takahashi and stop using tricks like Dark Trio that harm others and do not benefit himself, but listening to Yoshida's narration, Takahashi Makoto's face gradually changed from a look of expectation to disappointment, which made Yoshida feel a little confused. After interrupting the narration to ask, Yoshida's face turned pale and the corners of his mouth entered twitching mode. Hey! Is it just like this? Makoto Takahashi curled his lips in displeasure and said to the livid Yoshida, "Those fools who claim to betray God and apostasy thought they would capture the editorial side and massacre everyone." The staff member said, "I didn't expect that I could only achieve this level. It was a waste of what I was looking forward to." I said, "Chang, what are you expecting?" At this moment, Yoshida really wanted to open Takahashi Makoto's head to see where the knot was. Judging from the readers' reactions, look, the effect of your 3 comics this time is quite good, but you should avoid drawing such plots in the future. Of course, I am not forbidding you to draw, but I want to tell you that even if you want to draw such content, at least don't put it. Show up together. My familiar cat, I thought you already knew it when you saw the manga manuscript. I didn't expect that you didn't realize my true intention until now." Makoto Takahashi looked shocked. He looked at Yoshida with an expression of disbelief. Speaking of Takahashi Makoto, as the culprit, are you so shocked? If Yoshida could decipher Chuyuni's thinking mode by reading 3 manga manuscripts, that would be something truly shocking. I swore before that it's all a coincidence, it's all a coincidence, it's all a choice of Stein's, gate and so on. Is it this mouth? Well, is it this mouth? I lost it because of anger. Reasonable. Yoshida completely ignored the difference in force and kept pulling at Makoto Takahashi's mouth. Then, Kid Takahashi Makoto, even Sabas-chan, who is a decathlete and proficient in diplomacy, can't understand what you are talking about at this moment, so please speak in human language bar. Then tell me, Chen, what are your plans next? Yoshida, who had been suppressed for a long time, finally couldn't help but started to resist. Released his hands holding Takahashi Makoto's mouth, Yoshida stared at Takahashi Makoto, his face full of murderous intent. Let's talk first, you only have one chance. Stupid, my familiar cat, if you want to kill me, then hate me, hate me. Just live in such an ugly and humble way, constantly escaping from struggle, and then when you become a person who can evolve without the power of your familiar when you are in your ultimate form, come in front of me again and be killed by me. While dodging Yoshida's angry hand knife, he continued to use Chuyuni brainwashing attacks on Yoshida. In the small room, Takahashi CG, use your master level dodge ability. My name is Phoenix Academy's fierce and crazy cartoonist, and I am His Majesty the Demon King who will destroy the world. Ha 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 ha. This fight lasted for an hour. Yoshida was panting from exhaustion, while Makoto Takahashi sat on the chair with disdain, slowly sipping the wine in the glass. Simply in short, Yoshida's unorganized attack has no effect at all for Takahashi Makoto, let alone breaking the defense. Ah, Aiken, what are you going to do? Yoshida was lying on the ground, his tired body kept hinting that he would need a long rest, but his duty as an editor was to keep shouting, let Yoshida get up and fight again. I've said it before, we need to ravage the heretics. Makoto Takahashi put down his wine glass, the smile on his face gradually faded, and he tossed the magazine released this week up and down in his hand. We need more resentment, we need more. Too many curses, just to this extent, are totally unacceptable. I mean, Cheng, do you still remember the agreement you made with the editor-in-chief before, right? Yoshida had given up on the task of challenging the Demon King Makoto Takahashi again, calmed his breathing, and his face became serious. If the manga once your ranking is cut in half, no matter what plans you have in the future, you won't be able to implement them. Eh? Is there such a thing? It's really troublesome. Looking at Makoto Takahashi's surprised look, Yoshida finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just when he was about to speak and continue to persuade, he saw Makoto Takahashi. He took out his mobile phone from his jacket pocket and said seriously into the phone, "It's me. The organization has already planned to attack me and needs the help of assassins. Well, the target of elimination is defined as all members of the editorial side." Are you talking to a mysterious partner again? Yoshida curled his lips in disdain and looked at Makoto Takahashi speechlessly. Aren't you tired of playing tricks like this? Even if you're just pretending, please turn on your phone first, you bastard Shuyunibu. Now, my beloved cat, what you desire, what you hope for, during this period of time, I have felt your will and your consciousness from your actions. So, answer my question. Makoto Takahashi looked at Yoshida's helpless expression and quickly ended the call. According to the law of equivalent exchange, based on your answer, I can consider giving you the real answer. Although what you said is serious, I have already expected that your answer will definitely exceed my expectations. Yoshida once again used the complaint attack, but seeing that Takahashi Makoto did not explain too much, Yoshida could only helplessly spread his hands. Hey, Chen, just ask. Let me tell you first, I don't expect you to give me the correct answer at all. My beloved cat, as I have said many times before, your Tsundere attribute has nothing to do with you. You can act as a scheming villain in front of the little sea otter, but in front of me, you can only act as a comprehensive person. Damn it, seeing that Yoshida was about to enter the mad state again, Takahashi Makoto curled his lips in displeasure. Although he wanted to continue educating Yoshida in angry mode, he considered that making noise at night would affect the rest of the witcherina. Decisively chose to give up this interesting sideshow. Then the question, how will I, the fierce Phoenix Academy, come to the top of the world? Huh? Coming to the top of the world, Yoshida's brain suddenly panicked. What kind of weird question is this? This kind of thing, I'm afraid it's impossible even if it's the end of the world, right? Sure enough, Makoto Takahashi is now unable to communicate. Is this the content of the new comic? King of the world, please take your time and become delusional, I'm going back first. Hey! My beloved cat, don't you even know about this kind of problem? You're really superficial. Seeing Yoshida turn around and leave, Takahashi Makoto complained in a depressed tone, I didn't want to tell you originally, but because of the funny way you ran around before, I got some pleasure, so, my beloved cat, aren't you going back? Go back to your sister. The answer is to conquer and ravage. When Takahashi Makoto said this, he picked up a stack of photos from the table and handed it to Yoshida, who looked puzzled. Then he continued with expectation, conquer everyone who tries to challenge His Majesty the Demon King. Opponent, ravage any enemy who dares to stand in front of the Demon King. When the whole world is free of so-called enemies, I, the Phoenix Academy, will definitely stand in the clouds and become the Demon King who rules the world. Ha 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 ha. Akimumha, Shinzuma Eiji, Fukuda, I see, is this your purpose? Looking at the photo in his hand, Yoshida looked much better. After a moment of silence, Yoshida showed a look of surprise, so from the beginning, you planned to? That's right. Through the era of monsters, annihilating all opponents in one fell swoop is the ultimate goal of my Phoenix Academy's fierceness. Makoto Takahashi's confident look made Yoshida a little shocked. According to Makoto Takahashi, that is to say, when Inuyasha was serialized at the beginning, had Makoto Takahashi already reached this point? Since this is your purpose. Yoshida looked at Makoto Takahashi with a puzzled face, then why do you have such content in your recent manga manuscripts? Isn't this contrary to your purpose? Improve the difficulty of the task by self-mutilation, so that I won't feel guilty about not being able to win. Do you think I would say this? Makoto Takahashi looked at Yoshida with contempt. So, the wisdom of mortals. Not believing in you is truly the happiest choice in my life. Yoshida silently activated the destructive death light through his eyes. I chose to do this, on the one hand, to test the strength of creatures like humans, and on the other hand. Makoto Takahashi squinted his eyes, with a devilish smile on his face. Hey, my beloved cat, don't you think it is a very loving thing to give others hope while giving them equal or even more despair? After all, it is really satisfying to destroy the happy ending that my followers expect with your own hands. Full of words. Speaking of Cheng. After a moment of silence, Yoshida raised his head and looked at Makoto Takahashi, gritting his teeth and said, in order to save all mankind from despair, can you let me kill you? Well, I haven't coded for a few days. Let a certain cat practice his skills. The second update is here. Thank you all for your continued support and expectations. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Male. Chapter 247. A cartoonist group named Ajumu and the man with yellow-haired glasses who is responsible for the plot of the comic, was affected by the Dark Trio and suffered from depression for a period of time. It was almost too late to complete the comic manuscript. Although the yellow-haired glasses man finally broke away from the shackles of darkness and completed the plot of his comic with his tenacious will, but due to the delay, Landai's classmate turned on the sleepless and late-night mode, and finally submitted the manuscript. I finished the comic draft before. Fortunately, I caught up, Landai slumped down on the table and looked at his good friend helplessly. Chi-ren, you are so easily influenced. It's obviously just a comic, but that night suddenly I called in the middle of the night, crying and saying, sorry, the best. Ahaha, although the plots of Aiken's comics are a bit too much, the development of the story is really exciting. The yellow-haired glasses guy saw his good gay friends exposing his dark history and immediately transferred. Topic. But after reading it, it makes people feel depressed. It is natural that the ranking of the comics will drop this time. Hey, Chi-ren, do you think Aiken will? Mentioning this matter, Landai put down the comic manuscript, swallowed hard, looked at his good friend in confusion, and asked nervously, will it be read by readers, therefore? Because the content of the comics was too depressing, readers were outraged, which ultimately affected Cheng's comics. Should I say that he is indeed a good gay friend? The man with yellow-haired glasses could actually understand what Landai was hesitating and unfinished. But most importantly, do you think that Guy Aiken will care about these issues? I'm sure that Guy definitely did this on purpose. Editor Hattori pricked his ears while looking at the manga manuscript. He was listening to the exchanges between the group named Yacheng Mumenha, but the expression on his face was a bit weird. Landai and Huang Mao must have been a couple in their previous life. Although this rumor came from an unreliable cartoonist, it was not real news. However, looking at the two people talking happily, editor Hattori suddenly felt that the rumor seemed to have some truth. After all, they had such a tacit understanding. The taller ones must have been husband and wife in their last life, but they were accidentally reincarnated into the wrong child in this life, so they became gay. Wait, what I should be paying attention to now is the issue of the comic PCP, right? Faced with the gay love of the two gay friends, Hattori editor, who had always been unfazed by favors and humiliations, now seemed cautious and weak. The reason is naturally that before editor Hattori came, his colleague Yoshida once complained that he should be careful about Ajumu using his inherent barrier gay world and dragging the uncle-like editor Hattori into the Nippori sect to study philosophy, diamond suit learning and the like. He shook his head slightly, put aside his distracting thoughts, and continued to read the manga manuscript. Now Uncle Hattori opened The Secret Heart is Still Water and entered the professional editing mode. Well, the content of this chapter is very good. I have indeed accepted the manga manuscript for the new chapter PCP. After sorting out the manga manuscript in his hand, editor Hattori had to interrupt the good gays who were exchanging love letters. The two friends gave a thumbs up to the two of them with smiles on their faces. Takagi-kun, Mashiro-kun, thank you for your hard work, hee. Editor Hattori finally breathed a sigh of relief after reading the manga manuscript of PCP. After all, during this period of time, Aiken Mumenjai's condition was not very good, and the ranking of comics performance was up and down. Although compared to a certain second-level cartoonist with a convulsive head, the current Aiken Mumenjai was still better. It is relatively stable, but if you want to surpass Ag Arizuma, the current Ajumu is not good enough. Mr. Hattori, is there anything wrong with the manga manuscript? Seeing Hattori's frown, the man with yellow hair and glasses immediately asked worriedly. His good friend Landai beside him was also a little confused, without blinking. Look at editor Hattori. It has to be said that the observation power of the yellow-haired glasses man is still as sharp as ever. In comparison, Landai's reaction is slower. The superpower system restrains the fighting system. Sure enough, Lauren's setting is not wrong. There is nothing wrong with the manga manuscript, it's just. Editor Hattori hesitated for a moment, but still chose to tell Ajumu, what I want to say is not that there is a problem with your manga manuscript, but that the cartoonist Hohoin Kuma is. What's wrong with that guy Makoto? Regarding his former neighbor and the same treatment as his new wife Eiji, Ajumu has always regarded Takahashi Makoto as an opponent he wants to surpass, but he is always paying attention and hears Hattori when the editor said this. The good gay friend looked at each other and his spirit of gossip burned decisively. Could it be last week's work? Haha. Thinking back to the dark hell-like life last week, editor Hattori had a helpless smile on his face. Last week, you have already read the 3 monster comics by Makoto Takahashi, right? Because of the serialization of those comics, the phone calls were almost buzzing. And because the phones were busy for a long time, many readers wrote to the editorial office. Can you imagine what you saw after entering the editorial office? Is it all about envelopes and emails? It took 2 whole nights to clean up the messy editorial office. Ahaha, it's really. Just listening to Hattori editor's description, the 2 of them were covered in cold sweat, especially the yellow-haired glasses man who had been interfered with the creation of comics before, and his face immediately switched to encounter. He looked at editor Hattori with quite a sympathetic look. Although the cartoonist's cartoons can infect many people, which shows that the cartoons are quite successful, but this is the so-called painful and happy feeling. After editor Hattori paused for a moment, he complained with a tangled look on his face, but the problem is, this is not the first time that manga artist Shoin Kuma has done this. The editorial department still can't get used to such painful pleasure. As for the destructive power of a certain middle-class cartoonist, the Ajumu-Menha duo have a deep understanding of it. Therefore, they have no intention of refuting Hattori's editor's words and can only express their agreement silently. The content of the new chapter of PCP, Takagi-kun, your eccentric plot and unbridled creativity, combined with Mashiro-kun's realistic painting style, should be said to be very Ajoki Menjai style, haha. But the smile gradually faded. Editor Hattori's serious expression seemed to have infected the 2 of them. The good friends sat upright and looked like they were always listening to the teachings. Editor Hattori was quite satisfied. It's just like this. It's not enough. Although the rankings of the 3 comics of Phoenix Academy have dropped due to plot problems, it can be seen from the exaggerated actions of readers that the 3 monster comics are quite popular, so you can't be complacent because of this victory. Regarding the words that editor Hattori had not finished, the yellow-haired glasses gentleman instantly understood the meaning and nodded in agreement. Although this time PCP the ranking has successfully overtaken Aiken's 3 comics, but I always feel like I'm being plotted by Aiken. Takagi-kun, and Mashiro-kun. Editor Hattori suddenly clapped his hands vigorously, attracting their attention. When you first came to submit articles, I already felt that your future will definitely be you can surpass Makoto Takahashi and Eiji Niizuma. You have been working hard and honing yourselves over the years. Although you don't feel these things yourself, as a bystander, I have seen your growth and rapid progress. Progress. Mr. Hattori, this kind of thing. The duo of Ajumu-Menha suddenly seemed a little shy when they were praised by Hattori editor. I kept mumbling for a long time, but I couldn't even utter a complete sentence. Perhaps you think that this time PCP ranks higher than all Makoto Takahashi's comics because of Makoto Takahashi's own mistakes, but I think this is a reward for your efforts. Because I know very clearly, the hard work you have been putting in. Editor Hattori's eyes were filled with hope. As long as you persist, you will definitely be able to surpass those 2 people, in a true sense. Oh, encouraged by Hattori's editor's ardent expectations, the duo's fighting spirit ignited. Just when Aiken Mumenjai was burning the small universe, the new wife Eiji looked at the document in his hand, with a hint of expectation on his face, and signed his name on the signature without hesitation. Hey, Niizuma-kun, this thing. Yujiro looked at the look on Niizuma Eiji's face and asked with some worry, are you sure this really doesn't matter? Yujiro-san, this is really interesting to say. Eiji Niizuma carefully put away the documents in his hands, jumped on the back of the chair, and kept shaking his body. Bet on the possession of body and soul. The winner having a chance to dominate the loser is what I look forward to. This proposal from the Phoenix Academy teacher is indeed the most interesting thing. Drawing comics is so fun. Hey, since you said so, Shinzuma-kun, I won't interfere. But as for Fukuda-kun, regarding the bet sent by his colleague Yoshida, Yujiro expressed that he was under a lot of pressure. First given to Eiji Niizuma, because Yujiro firmly believes that Eiji Niizuma will never lose to anyone in terms of comics. It's hard to say for the silver-haired Fukuda guy. Yujiro-san, if you don't give this document to Fukuda-kun, you will definitely be killed. In response to Yujiro's hesitation, the new wife Eiji responded unceremoniously, it seems that a handsome man has already been killed before. Falling over the shoulder. Ah, I know, I know. I will give this document to Fukuda-kun, that's it. The past events that Eiji Niizuma mentioned made Yujiro instantly furious. Especially when he thought of his miserable appearance before, Yujiro showed a bad smile on his face. It's okay to leave it to Fukuda-kun. In this way, when Fukuda-kun loses, he will become the slave of the Phoenix Academy teacher, he. Speaking of encountering such an unscrupulous editor, silver-haired brother, are you under a lot of pressure? Sure enough, your attitude was too gentle before. Hurry up and join the Phoenix Academy's murderous subordinates, and learn how to tame a responsible editor with Kid Makoto Takahashi. Yoshida expressed considerable concern about Takahashi Makoto's behavior of making enemies on all sides. Because the content of the bet really made Yoshida unable to calm down. If you ordinary people can defeat His Majesty the fierce Demon King of the Phoenix Academy in this war, then I will gather the 7 Dragon Balls for you and realize your most urgent wish. After rubbing his eyes several times, Yoshida repeated, make sure you read it correctly. Yoshida, whose mouth kept twitching, looked at Makoto Takahashi with a confused look on his face, and asked timidly, hey, Chang, is there really a dragon in this world that can grant any wish? Huh? My beloved cat, how could such a thing exist? Do you think the IQ of cartoonists is the same as yours? If such a creature really existed, the human beings in this world would have become my toys long ago. Takahashi Makoto put down his brush, walked in front of Yoshida, and patted Yoshida's shoulder vigorously. You are already this age, you should read less comics. I know that you feel hopeless about life, yeah, I know. But you can't give up treatment because of this. I don't want to be called a Chuyunibu by you, Chen. Yoshida looked gloomy, slapped Takahashi Makoto's hand and asked angrily, since you know it doesn't exist, don't write it on it. My cat, it seems you don't understand yet, to summon a dragon, the prerequisite is to defeat this Demon King. Takahashi Makoto showed a confident smile on his face, but I am a crazy cartoonist, the great Demon King Feng Guangai Yuan Kuma. The equation of victory has been constructed, how could I lose? Ha 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 ha. Well, the stock market crash has nothing to do with a certain cat. A certain cat will not pin his ideals in life on rehearsals and stocks. So in order to prove that a certain cat is still alive and has not jumped off a building, the third update is here. A certain reader, are you relieved now? Nai ha ha ha. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 248. As the witch's due date approaches, coupled with Takahashi Makoto's crazy declaration of launching a one-on-one group, the workload of the assistant side has increased significantly. Although Takahashi Makoto has generously upgraded his salary to a new level, facing the high-intensity work, the weak-willed assistants still have the idea of defecting. After only 1 month, the assistant side combat force left under Takahashi Makoto is only 2 men and 2 women. Ueno Aoi is responsible for the new manga Natsume, Ding Ding is responsible for the manga Inuyasha, and Shizukawa is responsible for the manga Uo and Tora. As for Takahashi Makoto, in addition to completing the manga drafts that were supposed to be drawn, he and Mayuri temporarily formed the special support section to support the assistants who need help at any time. This is the combat mode that Takahashi Makoto redistributed after the sharp reduction in the number of assistants. Although the few people who stayed are quite capable as assistants, but this does not mean that 5 people can complete the work of the original 10 people. The work that was originally completed by the rules and regulations now requires working overtime and staying up late to complete. It is not a problem in the short term, but over time, the fatigue of the body is completely unbearable. Even Takahashi Makoto, who has a monster's physical strength, is the same. Hey, Chen, take a break. If this goes on, not to mention us, even you can't bear it. Ding Ding looked at Takahashi Chen with a tired face, and then looked at the three people sleeping on the table over there, and complained unhappily, "This is already the third day, when will it stop? Tisk. You are all a bunch of spineless guys. It is because of such naive ideas that you can't change this corrupt world." Takahashi Chen put down his brush, picked up the magic sword Shattered Star leaning against the table, and roared at the three assistants who were sleepwalking, "The three people who are still replenishing magic over there, leave the safe area immediately, otherwise I, Feng Guangai Yuan Kuma, will definitely regard you as targets for elimination. If you want to rest, I can let you enter eternal sleep." The job of a cartoonist's assistant is to help the cartoonist complete the draft. Although that's what he said, the only person still drawing in Takahashi Makoto's new barrier is Tintin, who looks like an uncle. The other three are taking a rest. It's important to finish the comic, but you can't go on like this. Makoto, Yoshida also joined the persuaders and tried to persuade Takahashi Makoto, "I heard from Tintin that you haven't had a good rest in the past 3 days. Rest, my beloved cat, do you have time to think about this kind of thing at this time? The next one is the long-awaited decisive battle for my Hoenoin Kuma, one strike decides the outcome, that's the real manga unrivaled, ha 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 ha." Although the awareness and ideals are good, but looking at Takahashi Makoto's distorted face, Yoshida and Tintin both felt a strong sense of powerlessness. After the two looked at each other, they could clearly feel that Takahashi Makoto was just holding on. "Mr. Yoshida, although it's a little unrealistic to say this," Ding Ding whispered to Yoshida, "but if possible, I still hope you can find a few assistants as soon as possible. It's just the four of us plus Aiken, we don't have the ability to serialize 3 comics at the same time. Finding a suitable assistant is not an easy task. Besides," Yoshida glanced at Takahashi Makoto, who was laughing and drawing comics, and his mouth twitched constantly, "even if you find a new assistant, do you think they can stick to it? Not to mention the occasional convulsion to increase the workload, even if they face Aiken, that middle school guy every day, for a long time you will be exhausted physically and mentally. It is already very remarkable that you can persist until now. I just feel unwilling." Ding Ding looked at Takahashi Makoto, who was drawing, and showed a faint smile on his face, but his tone was full of respect. "I used to think that Chen was just an imaginative middle school kid, but through this period of time, I really understand that talent is just talent after all. If you don't work hard, it is impossible to succeed. Because in this world, geniuses with firm will and unremitting efforts are the most terrifying existence." The reason why Ding Ding made such a sigh was naturally because of Takahashi Makoto's almost crazy performance during this period. Ding Ding once thought that if he replaced himself with Takahashi Makoto, facing the sudden reduction of assistants, he would definitely choose to give up the opportunity to serialize 1 or 2 comics. After all, serializing 3 comics at the same time is already a very difficult thing for a cartoonist. But Takahashi Makoto still insisted, even if there were not enough assistants. Takahashi Makoto did not mention letting the comics go on hiatus and stop serializing. He still gritted his teeth and persisted, serializing 3 comics at the same time. When Tintin first became Takahashi Makoto's assistant, he just thought that Takahashi Makoto, who was able to come up with all kinds of wonderful ideas, might have this talent because of his Chuyunibu syndrome, but until now, seeing Takahashi Makoto, who still didn't give up serializing comics despite facing such difficulties, Tintin really felt that the gap in talent can be made up, but this firm will is not something that everyone can possess. When I first learned that several assistants had defected, the remaining staff on the assistant side were a little confused, because it was basically an impossible task for the remaining people to serialize 3 comics at the same time. Tintin had proposed at the beginning that if Makoto Takahashi chooses to give up 1 comic and serialize 2 comics at the same time, the work pressure will not be very great. Although the remaining assistants are still insufficient, but if 2 comics are serialized at the same time, it can be done. Are you giving up 1 of the comics? It is indeed a good choice, especially now that our combat power is insufficient. Regarding Ding Ding's proposal, Takahashi Makoto did not reject it on the spot, but remained silent for a while, using a low voice said to the remaining assistants, when faced with a difficult situation, the first thing you think of is escape. This choice is not shameful, because seeking advantages and avoiding disadvantages is the fundamental nature of human beings that is difficult to abandon, but in this way, are you satisfied? Although we are very reluctant, the actual situation. Ding Ding and others looked at each other, with unwillingness shining in their eyes. With just the 5 of us, it is basically impossible to complete such a workload. It can be done. You retreat because you are afraid, you run away because you are afraid. Makoto Takahashi slammed the table, and his remaining right eye seemed to be burning with crazy flames, but you seem to have forgotten that after entering the era of monsters, at this time, the fateful battle between us and all the cartoonists begins. Although the difficulty of our mission has increased significantly due to the defection of our assistant, but under such circumstances, we launched a desperate counterattack and reversed the entire battle. Isn't it also a man's romance? Let the cold heart in your chest burn again. Think back to the pride and self-esteem of being an assistant. Since we are challenging everyone on the cartoonist side, we must have the consciousness to defeat the opponent resolutely. Since we want to rule mankind, we must have the courage to rule the world. Just difficulties and adversities, this kind of boring fantasy, let's destroy it together. Makoto Takahashi's encouragement seems to be relatively successful. At least all the assistants have the fighting spirit at this moment, so let's burn the small universe together with His Majesty the Great Demon King of Phoenix Academy, and realize that we can destroy it. The 8th sense of everything. We will not come to the real world, drink ha ha ha. Makoto Takahashi, since you call yourself the Demon King, would you dare to choose original skills instead of stealing the moves of the saints? The fighting spirit that had just risen on the assistant's side dropped sharply to negative infinity at this moment. I shouldn't teach my mother how to play games or anything like that. I wasted a lot of time today without talking about it, and then I was summoned every time the game got stuck. This is a painful lesson that a certain cat learned today. Please be careful and say meow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 249. Regarding Makoto Takahashi's dilemma of urgently needing an assistant, even after Yoshida tried his best to find him, he still said he was helpless. So the suffering days on the assistant's side continued, and someone's spirit had begun to appear abnormal due to lack of sleep for a long time. Although Takahashi Makoto was able to complete the manga manuscript on time every week, Yoshida did not feel happy or relieved, but rather worried. Yugong, I am worried that Takahashi Makoto being in such a state for a long time will lead to some abnormal situations. By then, let alone serializing 3 comics at the same time, I will be thankful to be able to maintain the serialization. As a friend Yoshida, sincerely I am worried that Takahashi Makoto will work too hard and his body will not be able to bear it. Editor-in-Chief, Chang can't continue like this. Yoshida couldn't persuade Takahashi Makoto, so he could only report the situation to the editor-in-chief, hoping to persuade Takahashi Makoto to stop his recent crazy behavior through the editor-in-chief branch. This is Makoto Takahashi's own choice, and he will bear the consequences himself. After the editor was silent for a moment, he did not team up with Yoshida to become the retrieval experts, the shining duo, but stood up alone walking to the balcony. Since Takahashi Makoto has made up his mind, we can't stop it. This, as the editor-in-chief, you should know better than me, right? Because he has been in contact with Makoto Takahashi for the longest time, Yoshida knows it best, so Yoshida has no room to refute the editor-in-chief's words. Yoshida, whose thoughts were confused, did not notice the unnatural look on the editor's face. Seeing Yoshida leave with a troubled expression, the editor-in-chief shook his head feebly, thinking of the cartoonist who never stopped publishing. Even though the fever reached 40 degrees, that man still insisted on drawing. Even though he couldn't sit on the chair because his waist was so dizzy, he still insisted on completing the manga manuscript while lying on the bed. Although when he heard Yoshida's report at the beginning, the editor-in-chief really wanted to. What made Takahashi Makoto rest was just to think of the man who had been working hard. In the end, the editor-in-chief chose to give up the previous idea. Kawaguchi, if you use pressure to force Makoto Takahashi to rest, then your efforts are nothing. After murmuring, the editor looked at the sample magazine on the table, his eyes a little erratic. I originally thought that the inheritance would be the one you willed is your nephew Aiken Mumanjai, but I didn't expect there to be another one named Takahashi Makoto. Yoshida walked out of the editorial office and decided to enter the persuading Makoto Takahashi instance alone again. It's not that I haven't considered teaming up, it's just that Yoshida is not very familiar with the other cartoonists on the cartoonist side, except for the Little Sea Otter. And if you choose the Little Sea Otter, with Makoto Takahashi's recent ferocious character, the possibility of the Little Sea Otter getting there and rebelling is 200%. And there is no doubt that he took the Little Sea Otter to find Takahashi Makoto. Apart from being cute, Yoshida had no idea what effect the Little Sea Otter would have when facing Takahashi Makoto. Damn it, the more he thought about it, the more irritated he became. Yoshida punched the wall. Perhaps it was because he had just proved that his body was not stronger than the wall, or because he thought of Takahashi Makoto's convulsive behavior, and the corners of his mouth kept twitching. He complained resentfully, if Hiramaru-kun could work one-third as hard as that guy Chang, I wouldn't have to work so hard. I must let Hiramaru-kun take a good look at it this time. What does it mean to be a real cartoonist? It has to be said that human beings' ability to associate is so powerful. The Little Sea Otter, who has been staying at home and drawing pictures recently, is inexplicably confused. As if sensing Yoshida's conspiracy, the Little Sea Otter, who was drinking black tea, instantly felt a chill coming from his back. He subconsciously ran to the table and started drawing comics. Oh! My heart is about to explode. I can't do it anymore. 5 minutes later, the Little Sea Otter, whose energy had dissipated, lay on the table, clutching his chest, looking up at the ceiling, sighing with hope. The Yoshida clan has been staying with the Phoenix in God recently, so he shouldn't be coming over today, right? Hey, Hiramaru-kun, open the door quickly. Before the Little Sea Otter could finish his emotion, he heard Yoshida's voice coming from outside the door. Gee, Mr. Yoshida, like a cat whose tail was stepped on, the Little Sea Otter immediately jumped up from the chair, his face instantly turned pale, and his voice became stuttering due to trembling. He pinched his nose and tried to change his voice. Mr. Yoshida, Mr. Hiramaru is not at home. Yoshida had a dark look on his face outside the door. After a short silence, he decisively chose to increase the intensity and frequency of knocking on the door. Ah! Is Hiramaru-kun really not at home? This is really a pity. I originally planned to bring him with me, leading him to Aiken's place to improve his ability to attack teacher Kang Shuhong. This is really... Yoshida, let's go now. The Little Sea Otter in a neat suit immediately opened the door, holding a bunch of gifts in his hand. Speaking of which, it's been a long time since I went to see the God of the Phoenix Academy. Yoshida plans to take the Little Sea Otter to Makoto Takahashi and let the Little Sea Otter see Makoto Takahashi in struggle, so as to stimulate the little sea otter's fighting spirit and so on. Similarly, I also hope that the lazy aura of the little sea otter will infect Makoto Takahashi, hoping that Makoto Takahashi will come up with the idea that it would be nice to take a little rest and not have to work so hard on drawing comics. Yoshida, what sound did you hear? When the little sea otter walked to the door of Makoto Takahashi's house, he suddenly stopped and looked at Yoshida with a puzzled face. I seem to hear a girl's laughter. Yeah, I heard it. This laughter should be from Rina-chan, right? Yoshida was also a little confused. He instinctively noticed that Rina's laughter was a little strange. But why does it sound a little? Eh? Are you actually living together? As expected of Lord Fengguanjin. The little otter stared at the door with envy, as if he was imagining some content that was not suitable for children. His face became a little strange. He turned to look at Yoshida, who looked confused. Mr. Yoshida, we came here to disturb Lord Fengguanjin today. Can we really let Lord Fengguanjin help me? Here American, don't have any weird thoughts. Cheng and Rina-chan are husband and wife, so it's natural for them to live together. Yoshida looked at the little otter's wretched face, gently patted the little otter's shoulder, and sighed helplessly. As long as you work as hard as Cheng, you can also live such a happy life with Miss Aoki Hong. Mr. Yoshida, is this true? Facing Yoshida's nonsense, the little otter actually believed it completely and looked at Yoshida with hope. Facing the little otter's eyes like a herbivorous animal, Yoshida instantly felt a little guilty. The hand that was originally reaching out to knock on the door just stopped in mid-air, and for a moment he didn't know what to say. My cats and the little otter, tisk. I didn't expect you to come this time. The door suddenly opened, and Takahashi Makoto shook his body like a zombie with dark circles under his eyes. Is it because of you that Ding-chun is restless? Hee, you came at the right time. A mysterious and ominous premonition. Looking at the terrifying smile on Takahashi Makoto's pale face, Yoshida and the little otter instantly felt this way. Before the two could say anything more, they were dragged into the room by Takahashi Makoto. Hey, Cheng, what's going on? After entering the room, seeing that all the assistants were wearing white coats, with broken smiles on their faces, their hands did not stop working on the draft. Although he wanted to praise the hard work of all the assistants, facing this weird scene, Yoshida subconsciously wanted to escape from here, and the little otter, who didn't know what was going on, was shrinking behind Yoshida at this moment, looking at Takahashi Makoto in fear. There is no doubt that the pressure from the bloodline, facing the strange state of Takahashi Makoto, made the little sea otter's wild instinct produce fear. Rina's laughter rang out again in the empty room, but Yoshida's face turned pale in an instant. If I remember correctly, the song playing now was the one sung by Rina before, the exclusive song when the second lady appeared in Touhou. It seems that the time is just right. Takahashi Makoto snapped his fingers handsomely, and a devilish smile appeared on his bloodless face. Hey, my family cat and little sea otter, let's play together. Sorry, everyone. Because during the mission, a cat left a lot of work unfinished, and had to work overtime, so it is estimated that it will be a single update before the weekend. Meow. Sincerely sorry, meow. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 250. Back in time, the day before the arrival of Yoshida and the little sea otter, Makoto Takahashi distributed the bagged items in his hand to each assistant. This is. Tintin opened the gift first and found that what was wrapped tightly in the bag was just a piece of clothing, a white coat that was exactly the same as Makoto Takahashi's. My fellow believers, accept your gift with gratitude. Makoto Takahashi looked a little haggard because of staying up late, but all the assistants also stayed up late and worked overtime, resulting in obvious perception and reduced thinking ability. I didn't notice the weird smile on Takahashi Makoto's face. I am quite satisfied with your efforts during this period. But only to this extent, it will only be a drag on me after all. So, now we need to improve the combat effectiveness of you ants against the 5 scum. Thank you, Xiao Chang, eh. White coat, Weno Aoi couldn't wait to open the card gift, and then entered a Spartan state. Looking at the white coat in his hand, Weno Aoi looked at Makoto Takahashi with a puzzled look on his face, and complained helplessly, speaking of Xiao Chang, can wearing a white coat improve your combat effectiveness? Stop making trouble, what do you think of this dress? They're just ordinary white coats. And we're just cartoonists' assistants, not doctors or scientists, so why do we wear white coats? Huh? This move is a 3-stage complaint. Phew. It's all my fault, that guy from my dependent cat, because he usually uses 3-stage complaints against me too much. Did you also learn this skill? Even though he said this, but Makoto Takahashi did not struggle with this issue with Aoi Ueno. Instead, he pulled up his white coat and began to instill a correct worldview to all the assistants. You ants, don't be deceived by appearances. The white coat in your hands is not an ordinary existence. Although the assistant side has been a little depressed recently, it does not mean that his IQ has been suppressed. I looked over and over at the clothes in my hands. It was obvious that it was just a white coat. There was nothing unusual about it at all. And he was able to complain, as a cartoonist's assistant, why did he receive such a weird gift as a white coat from the cartoonist? Tisk, 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 stupid ants, the noble phantasm white coat in your hands was actually the noble phantasm that I personally entered into the Hall of Valor and snatched specifically for you. Everyone on the assistant side looked at them in complete disbelief. Seeing this, Makoto Takahashi sneered, since we are now planning to kill all the cartoonists, we must unify our combat uniforms. By the way, if in future battles, you are accidentally killed because you are not wearing white coats, but don't be resentful. Hey, you guys, start dressing up immediately. In this way, the Knights of the Round Table to which I, the Phoenix Academy Jujhen, can finally be formed, and the domineering journey to conquer the world will finally begin. This white coat seems a bit big. In order to prevent Takahashi Makoto from continuing to instill a weird worldview, and to protect everyone's rest time, Ueno Aoi took the lead in putting on a white coat. Just looking at the long sleeves, Ueno Aoi was so depressed that she asked Takahashi Makoto, Makoto, is there something wrong with this size? For Mayuri-chan and I, it's obviously. Isn't this just right? Makoto Takahashi interrupted Ueno Aoi unceremoniously, and carefully looked at an indescribable part of the 2 girls in front of him, with a disdainful smile on his face. I have specially considered you are slightly above the level of the horizon, so I made some modifications for you before the noble phantasm took shape, so that even if you evolve into Mount Everest in the future, it will still be able to accommodate. As expected, Mayuri had the attribute of being naturally stupid, and did not react immediately, so she just tilted her head and looked at Takahashi Makoto, but Ueno Aoi instantly understood the implication of Takahashi Makoto's words, and her previously depressed look was filled with strong emotions, replaced by intention. Although Takahashi Makoto is still talking endlessly about the topic of horizon, will never understand the loneliness of Mount Everest. Takahashi Makoto, Ueno Aoi's sharp scream, full of anger and murderous intent, caused the temperature of the entire room to skip the autumn in reality and enter the cold winter. If it were in the manga, the current Ueno Aoi has definitely understood the 7th sense and completed the rhythm of Super Saiyan transformation. Sir Fang once said that small breasts are also a rare resource. Although I think this is correct, but from the actual combat experience, this cute attribute will definitely become a burden. So you can only look at small breasts from a distance and don't play with them. Although it is unlikely that Tsunade or Mai Shiranui will have breast slipping levels in reality, at least for human women, it's okay. You have to practice to the level of breast shaking that can produce a feeling of ups and downs at a glance. Completely ignoring Ueno Aoi, who was about to activate the murderer mode, Takahashi Makoto continued to talk without hesitation. No matter how bad you are, you still need to practice to the point where you can use the breast shaking skill at will, right? You have been following me for a certain period of time. Up to now, you are still only slightly above the sea level, alas. It seems that you are destined to live a lifetime. The curse of poor breasts will accompany you for the rest of your life. After Ding Ding and Jing He looked at each other, they decisively chose to move back in small steps, trying to keep a distance from Makoto Takahashi, so as not to wait for Ueno Aoi to be furious and use indiscriminate full-screen attack skills. Speaking of being able to talk about the characteristics that women care about most from the topic of white coats, I really have to marvel at the magic of human language. Ryoko, it's wrong to wear a white coat like you. After Takahashi Makoto finished mocking Ueno Aoi, he ignored the latter's expression of gritting his teeth and wanting to kill someone, and turned to Shiji, who had just put on a white coat. You still lack a wig. And the mask. I specially used the legendary female transformation technique on your white coat. Can you smell the fragrance on it? That's right, this is something I specially made to ignite male infatuation. Some kind of secret potion of state. Once you put on this white coat, you will become the target of all men's prying eyes. After becoming a girl, you can attract a large number of men, and you can undoubtedly proudly claim that you are a peerless beauty. Man. The corner of his mouth was twitching, not only Jing He, but also Ding Ding, who was beside him, who was very depressed. Not to mention that there are still a large number of manga manuscripts that have not been completed. A certain irresponsible second grader is here to talk about the various uses of white coats. According to the order of Takahashi Makoto's taunting just now, there is no doubt that he is next. I really don't know what Makoto Takahashi will say. Tintin lowered his head without any expectation, trying to be like an ostrich, thinking that he could hide his presence without seeing the other person. Ding Ding, even if you master Kuriko's ability in the future, don't try to mislead me. Makoto Takahashi shook his white coat and looked at Ding Ding with disdain. After putting on the white coat, you can blatantly go to the school gate and cast the forbidden spell. Uncle will show you goldfish on the girl after school. Hey, Chen, is that a crime? Ding Ding complained with a black line on his face. Why would I do such a thing? The above is just for you when you are using the noble phantasm white coat alone. In response to Tintin's question, Takahashi Makoto was silent for a moment, then obviously and deliberately changed the topic. Now let me show you. Let's use the power of gathering multiple noble phantasms white coat together. Makoto Takahashi flicked his fingers, but nothing happened, leaving everyone on the assistant side speechless. However, Makoto Takahashi did not feel embarrassed at all, but silently walked to the table and picked up the diagonal pick. Leaning on the magic sword on the seat, he looked at all the assistants with interest. It's about to begin. Mysteries, taboos, 4 levels of existence. Collapseful laughter began to sound, and the second lady's exclusive music sounded. Takahashi Makoto, holding the magic sword, squinted at everyone and said in a tone of great expectation, "Essay. With the help of the noble phantasm, you have now evolved into a sleepless life form. I will make an exception tonight. Allow you ants to follow me and enter the final chapter of the monster era. Drink ha 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 ha." As the two women who live in Takahashi Makoto's house, Ueno Aoi and Mayuri, have a very good relationship with Rina, so they have heard Rina sing this song Under the Scarlet Moon, Crazy Saki Zetsu before. Although Ueno Aoi has complained countless times, Rina's laughter when singing this song is terrifying, but she has become the witch that Takahashi Makoto has contracted, and Rina just laughs and says nothing every time. By the way, I heard a certain ant complain about my familiar witch. Makoto Takahashi squinted at Ueno Aoi, with a scary smile on his face. I think, everything is because your love is not deep enough, so let you feel the resonance from the soul tonight. The magic sound released by the witch with all her magic power, let you feel it 1,000 times tonight. Xiao Chang, you bastard, you are definitely seeking revenge. Wenoaoi complained unwillingly, but her hand showed no intention of stopping. She kept waving the brush to speed up the completion of the comic manuscript. This matter, I will definitely tell Rina-chan when she comes back. Humph. It's 100 years too early for a mere ant to resist me. The magic sword in Takahashi Makoto's hand accidentally flashed past Wenoaoi, kindly reminding Wenoaoi that in a certain in front of Chu-er, there are only two identities, enemy and slave. What does it feel like to play a song, mindlessly for an entire night? Makoto Takahashi has some mental abnormalities due to staying up late, so he has the absolute ability to resist this kind of brainwashing method, but several people on the assistant side don't seem to have such ability. Wenoaoi has completely lost her mind. She starts drawing comics as soon as the music starts, and stops when the music stops. Although Shizukawa is expressionless, he often bursts into laughter from his mouth, which seems to have awakened his hidden personality. Mayuri had a broken smile on her face, banging her head on the table from time to time. As for Ding Ding, the uncle had already pulled up his white coat and wrapped it around his head. Everyone on the assistant side, looks like they've been spoiled by visual inspection. Hey! Did you give in so soon? It's really boring, huh? After Takahashi Makoto finished the comic draft, he looked at all the members drawing seriously in a strange state, and curled his lips in displeasure. Definitely Chun and Liuli were not affected. They are indeed the most elite combat force under my command. If my companions Cat and Little Sea Otter are here at this time, we can test their potential and have a good time. The player Makoto Takahashi successfully used the wishes come true skill and obeyed the call of the great will of the world. Yoshida and the Little Sea Otter arrived at Makoto Takahashi's door. It seems the time is just right. Makoto Takahashi snapped his fingers handsomely, with a devilish smile on his bloodless face. Hey, my companion cats and Little Sea Otter, let's play together. Yesterday, a kind old man cast a barrier and trapped me in the office until late at night. I really want to say that it is not that the old people have become bad, but that the bad people have become old. Respecting the old and loving the young is what we should do, but for the stubborn people who are unreasonable, it is useless to spend 100,000 or even 1 billion patience. I have been ridiculed and scolded all the time, and I dare not talk back. Ah, Tatsumai-kun, can I ask you for a high price? This world isn't it already rotten?